We're going to welcome to the library an actual librarian, Dave Wilson.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for spending your time with me today. We're
Happy to
going to
do it.
start. Oh, gosh, I'm so sorry. I interrupted you.
No, it was just filler. I was just saying, happy to do it. Absolutely.
We're going to start with like the easiest question. What is your Degrassi origin story?
Okay, so my Degrassi origin story goes all the way back to when Degrassi Junior High premiered on PBS in the late 80s. I was a teen back then. I remember coming home after school and just finding it, I think. I think I'd been seeing ads for it pop up on PBS too. I don't know why I watched PBS as a kid, but I got sucked into it right away. I don't remember a lot of the storylines and stuff back then, but I do remember I remembered the characters Stephanie K and Joey Jeremiah and Caitlin, and I remembered some big things about it. But honestly, it kind of fell off my radar for a long time and was reactivated many years later when I found out that my fiance, who's now my wife, was also a Degrassi fan when we were unpacking, when we were moving in together. And I saw her Degrassi DVDs, her junior high and Degrassi high DVDs in the boxes. And we had this like bonding moment where we were like, wait, you know that show too? And I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot about that show. I love that show so much. And we started watching them again together. It's the first time I had ever gotten to watch them with someone else. And this show that I remembered loving so much for a while when I was a kid was suddenly like now a real thing that I got to enjoy again. And I didn't know about anything except for Degrassi Junior High. I didn't even know about Degrassi High. So she's like, didn't you know that they had the same kids and they had Degrassi High? And I was like, no, we have to watch this like right now. So we watched that. And then same kind of thing. We moved right into TNG. And around that time, my teen, who was probably about 15 or so at the time, wandered into the room when we were watching and just started getting sucked into the show too. It was like, what is the show? And they ended up joining us. Now, this is like during the pandemic and everything, and lockdown. So, we're in our houses for a year, and Degrassi TNG became like our family ritual. We watched the whole show every night, 2 or 3 episodes, I think. And it was like this amazing thing that I got to do with my teen and my wife. And it's, I don't know, it's life changing, this show. And it's brought me in touch with so many cool people like you in our community.
I mean, I can definitely agree. It's life changing. It's community building. And it sounds like your whole family kind of bonded and grew together.
Absolutely. In fact, it was really cool to have a teen at the same time that we were watching it because we were experiencing a lot of the same things. And we might talk about this a little later, but my kid around that time came out as non-binary and later as trans. And this was all totally new for us to navigate as a family. But right around this time or a little bit after, I remember they came home. They had watched a little ahead of where we were on TNG, and they came back one day and were like, "Oh my God, there's this trans character named Adam, and I can't wait for you to see him. And we need to watch this together." And we like fell in love with Adam and that storyline, and it just helped me as a parent and my kid to feel seen and to watch someone else having some experience. And so I have now that association with the show, that it like companionship for our family, and it mirrored our experiences, and it I think helped all of us. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. As a non-binary person, I relate to Adam on many levels, and it's always nice to see yourself on TV, and it's nice that you like could watch that with them and understand, and they didn't have to really explain as much because the TV was right there saying it for them.
Yeah. And I think in some sense, I feel like we were a bit ahead of Adam's storyline. So, we were already fine, perfectly, adapting to this new reality. And I totally love and support my kid and everything. But I remember that it was hard to watch some of the stuff in that first episode, My Body is a Cage, with Audra, is that her name? Adam and Drew's mom, and all
Yes.
of that stuff, like, I need you to be Gracie because grandma's coming to visit. Now, I mean, that some of that stuff was playing out with their mom for a while. I mean, she loves and supports my kid too, but it was a little bit, it took a little bit longer for some of the, to really understand and support what was going on, even no matter, even if she loves my kid so much. But the other thing I want to say though is that I think that the show originally stood out for me back when I was a teen because, like, I don't know, I kind of felt like I didn't have a lot of friends and I felt like kind of an outsider. And also, honestly, I was kind of a wheels sort of. I mean, I was living with my older sister, my family life with my parents. I lost my dad at a young age. My mom had some mental health issues and stuff. And so I ended up with my older sister as my guardian for those last few years of high school. And so these kids were experiencing the same kinds of things. And for me, I felt seen and supported and just got to see, hey, look at these kids. They're like me. They're like my friends. And, they're making it through. They're getting through this. They have the support of each other. It just felt so real in a good way.
Yeah, they turn into your friends, these characters. You grow with them.
And well, they really felt like our friends during the pandemic when we did not get to go out and see anybody. It was like my kid's high school class now is the Degrassi class.
I can definitely understand that. And I wouldn't want to graduate with anyone else. I wasn't sure if I saw you as a Wheels, but when I hear your backstory, I definitely get it more.
Well, I don't even know. I haven't really thought about that much, but yeah, that's sort of one of the connections I have is not having well, I don't even know what a traditional home life is, but I did not have the stable house and the parents. I had some really rocky years for a while and I'm really grateful, but I'm really close to my sister still because she raised me basically. And, yeah, so I guess that is one of my, one of my entry points into Degrassi was going through some stuff of my own.
I think a lot of us can relate to that. There's always something that draws you in that you relate to. There's all these different characters, and everyone has tough moments, and there's always at least one person you can relate to at any point in your life, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think you've said before that your entry point was also My Body is a Cage, right? It was a show that you were flipping through and happened to see part of, and it was a while before you discovered what the show was.
Yes, because we didn't have cable for a while.
Yeah.
Then my mom got a little bonus check for Christmas, and she was like, "Oh, for about 2 months, we're gonna have some cable again." And I was like, "Okay, 2 months, I can get into
Enjoy
something."
those 2 months.
That's how it often was. We would have cable for a month or two, and then, oh no, no more. Can't afford it again. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, we still got DVD player and $5 DVDs at Walmart and things like
Hmm.
that. But yeah, I just was flipping through and I was like, oh, we changed cable networks. Let me see what new channels are. And I saw Adam, and not only did I think he was very attractive, but
Hmm.
also quite relatable.
That's cool. Yeah, it seems like almost everybody that we know in our community has that kind of touch point character or storyline that they related to on a personal level. And I think it's I don't know, I think it's one of the things that gathers us together.
Yeah, I think it's something where we're like, that's how we relate to each other. This is our favorite show, and we understand each other by knowing each other's favorite characters and who we relate to. And it's like, oh, I really like that character too.
The funny thing is now I'm way more of a super fan than anyone else in my family. Like my wife still likes Degrassi. My kid still likes Degrassi and will come in and sit down and watch with me if I'm watching it. But I'm much more into it now than anybody else in the family. And the fact that I found our group on Discord and our community and everything has also been pretty cool and amazing. All the wonderful people I've met, like you.
Yes, I absolutely love that I've met you and everyone else, but like, you're definitely someone where I'm like, oh, I can relate to this. I also want to be a librarian, and I feel like
Hmm.
we connect a lot over books and things like that.
Yeah.
But also, your taste in music has really broadened my horizons quite a bit.
Oh, good. I feel like I haven't been dropping any recommendations lately, but I'm glad that sometimes you see something new.
Yeah, I definitely like, I'll remember the book club and all the
Hmm.
music that you played, and it's like, oh, the way you explained your love for the Beatles and everything really clicked with me.
Cool. That makes me happy because we this book club meeting where we're talking about all the music in Stephen Stone's book, whatever it takes, and I was on the hook for doing music presentations to address any music that he put on that he mentioned in the book, and I was like, I bet these people don't actually really know anything about the Beatles, and I'm responsible. Now, I need them to know how important the Beatles are, and not just in the world of music, but to me. How can I do that in like 7 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever I did? So anyway, that makes me happy that that kind of a thing stood out to you.
I mean, I enjoyed when Jocelyn messaged me and she was like, I need you to go through this book ahead of time and pick out all of the movies and different episodes and music artists. And I was like, I can do this. I've listened to the audiobook 10 times. I can do
Well,
this.
that's the librarian part of your personality, right? All the detail and pouring through the book.
It was a lot of fun, actually. Like
Hmm.
skimming through the ebook and writing stuff down. I've got my little notebook still, keeping it for the podcast. I was like, I'm going to end up doing this anyway. I'm going to do
Hmm.
maybe a few episodes about this book anyway. So, and it's one of my favorite reads.
Cool. Great stuff.
So I was very curious why she had me writing down all those artists and everything. So I was pleasantly surprised when she was like, "Oh yeah, Dave's going to do this." I'm like, "That makes sense."
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just did the same thing, so I don't even know. I mean, I went through and found what I was going to talk about.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely something we both connected over
Hmm.
helping out.
I loved it.
That's something I really love about you is you're always there to help out.
I have really loved being a mod on our Discord and getting to support all of these events that we do and like think of new ideas for events is also really fun. Yeah. I didn't know that I needed this as as a creative outlet or as something, some way to contribute stuff that I'm excited about and also connect it with Degrassi, but it's been awesome.
That's exactly how I feel. Like every time I have got a new idea, I can just bring it and I'm like, I don't have to do this alone now.
Now we have people willing to jump in and help you make it real, like your podcast.
Yes, Jocelyn's been so helpful with this. And
This was just an idea for a while, and now how many episodes are you in? It's your show.
I feel like 7. I feel like this is
Yeah, it's been a while now.
it's been nice. And you have a podcast too, so we have like a
I
whole community
do.
of people with podcasts.
I love that because we all can, I don't know, support each other with anything that comes up. I think sometimes it's even just like, I'm like, I'm about to record, wish me good luck kind of thing. It's just nice knowing that we have other people doing the same thing. And then if there's anything weird and technical that comes up, we have people to ask about it too. What's the podcasting hosting platform I should be on and stuff like that.
Yes, Jocelyn was very helpful with that, and so was Evie. And like when I was looking at microphones, but sadly couldn't afford them, y'all were there with the recommendations.
Well, you guys were literally there about the podcasting, the hosting thing, because I was starting a new podcast and I was like, I want to look for some better way to host it. And I put a call out. And I think 6 or 7 of you guys with, podcasts jumped in and said, I'm using Spotify and I'm using this or that. So that really helped. I ended up using Spotify.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of what we're here for. Just a way to connect with each other and be like, hey, we're going through relatable things. I mean, sure, our podcasts are about different things, but we can still relate on that level. It's still a base level. I'm sorry, we got so off topic.
I know. I don't know why we're talking about podcasting. It's probably, you can edit.
I'll edit around if I need to, but I left a lot
Yeah.
of side tangents in with Sawyer too, because I was like, these are just fun.
Okay. Whatever. It's your show. Whatever you want to keep in is fine with me, unless I object to it.
If you object, I will definitely
If I
edit
say
it out.
something really stupid or, yeah, or too personal, no.
Yeah, I will definitely take those into consideration. But so you did help out a lot with the Stephen Stone book club.
I
Have
did.
you read any other Degrassi books?
Yes, I have. I read 2 of the like novelizations, from the the series. I've read the book about Wheels. It's called Wheels. The Wheels book is called Wheels, and I've read Snake, both of those two Susan Nielsen books. And I've read Mother of All Degrassi's, you probably know, because we had our book club for that too. I've read Whatever It Takes. I have Degrassi 311, the Catherine Ellis book. I've maybe read about half of like something I did into rather than read cover to cover. It's kind of a side table thing. I think I got to the part where it's just like the little profiles of the actor, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna chill on this and pick it up again. And then the one that I just got is, and you got your copy just before I did, is Growing Up Degrassi. That
Yeah.
I can't remember it's edited by somebody named Michelle Byers. It's a collection of academic essays. Yeah, I have mine. It's just out of reach over there.
I've got
A
it
collection
too.
of academic essays about Degrassi Classic and somewhat maybe about halfway through TNG or something. I think around, it was published in maybe the mid to late 2000s or something like that. I haven't read it yet. I've read the introduction and I skipped to the back section because the chunk I want first are the 3 or 4 essays about communities and fan culture. Because I identified with that because of our fan community and our fan culture. And I wanted to read these tales from people talking about the early days of Degrassi fandom. And I just read the first essay in that section by a guy named Mark Aaron Polgar. And the essay's called Building a Fan Community. And he's talking about starting like an early Degrassi website when, it's just hand coding HTML and putting text up. And it still exists because I went looking for it, but it's Degrassi.org. He still has that domain.
So,
And so it's all really old stuff, but it's still out there and it was fun to take a look at. It's very simple. I mean, but there wasn't a lot at the time. He actually goes through and sort of found out and, whatever the other half dozen or 10 people who had early websites up and talks a little bit about them. But it's got episode lists and his essay actually goes on to document how they did the very first Degrassi convention. And by convention, it was an evening from like 6 to 9 p.m. that they did at Centennial College, where they shot Degrassi High, which was the location. And they got like 5 or 6 actors to come out there. And, it was very small. They put it on themselves. They bought like snacks and chips and stuff. I mean, it was like more like a party than a convention, but it was so, I guess, endearing and cool to see. This is the early days of the fandom when there really wasn't much of an internet and there wasn't a whole lot of ways to connect with people. And yet this guy's in Canada, puts together one of the first websites and then gets together with another friend or two and puts on this thing with, Mr. Radich and Miss Avery. They just got a couple of people. Dwayne is there. Yeah, I liked it. So I'm excited about reading the rest of this book eventually.
I absolutely love how you point out all of this stuff and then you're like, yeah, I liked it.
Well, you can hear that I liked it, but
Yes. And it's
I mean, I
so
like literally
cool.
read this 2 days ago, so it's fresh and yeah.
I mean, I like that you went to a fan convention and then you're like, let me go back and read about the first ever fan convention. It's full circle.
Yeah, because that's what the last chunk of the book is organized thematically, and the whole last section is this sort of fan communities and fan cultures. And I was like, I'm going to start with that because I have a real personal interest and connection to the fan culture and the fandom right now. Let's see what was going on way back when in the early days.
I've definitely talked to Jocelyn and I've told her I want her to put out an episode about like the journey of the fans from the beginning to
Yeah.
now with the Discord and kind of compare it. But I feel like she's got so many episode ideas that she might have just forgot.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, these websites also, I mean, in addition to the websites, there were also like message boards, early text-based message boards.
Oh my
The
god.
same thing we're doing in chat on the chat channels in Discord, but it's just text-based and you're no live talking on mic or voice chat kind of situation, but starting to have those conversations with fans across the world, leaving messages for each other and talking about the different episodes and characters and stuff.
I mean, that's things we definitely started out with, and then we delved into all this other stuff like watching Lemonade Mouth together and Life with Derek and things like that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I feel like I don't know if I've said this on anyone else's podcast, or I know I've said it to our group of friends, but I feel like Degrassi is a gateway for really
Yes.
people. So the show is what brought us here, but now we're all a bunch of really kind, cool, creative, real, genuine people who
Yeah.
also have a lot of other things in common. And we just like to be there for each other, to spend time with each other, support each other. And it isn't even all about Degrassi anymore. It's just, that's the thing that got us here. And we always have that, and we can always talk about that. And we do. And we
Yeah.
certainly have our share of events and conversations about it. But we also, like, we're just friends now because this show that is so real and true in the way that it depicts teens and families, like, brought a really cool group of kind people together.
Yeah, we definitely get into other things and we talk about our real life. And it's so much more than what like we originally thought it was going to be. And it was originally just for the Mother of All Degrassi book club. And now it's something we check multiple times a day to chat about whatever.
Yeah, people are out there in the mornings saying good morning and how's your day going and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, I'm one of the first people. That's the first thing I do.
You're an early bird.
Yeah, I try to be. I try to be an early bird. I definitely have my mornings where I'm like, I don't want to get out of bed,
Yeah,
and especially
I
after
hear
a
you.
long night. Well, we have those long nights on the Discord where we just watch
Hmm.
music videos and we close out with Shower Rat. And sometimes we're doing Shower Rat at like 10:30 p.m. and I'm like, I still have to like pack a lunch, walk the
Yeah,
dog.
I can't always stick it out to the bitter end because I wake up at, 5 something and get out of work as a librarian.
Yeah, I'm very thankful I work from home sometimes because I'm like, I could sleep in until 6:30, which
Yeah.
is definitely sleeping in for me. Yeah, not all of us are that lucky. Well, are there any other Degrassi books that you're like dying to read? I'm just
I mean, I'm
curious.
interested in some of the other character books. And so I think that Lucy is at the top of my list. I don't know anything about what the book is about, but I like the character a
I have
lot.
her book.
Um,
Yeah,
I'm interested in Caitlin's book. I
their
mean,
books are right next to each other. They came out. Lucy is
yeah.
15 and Caitlin is 16.
And how can I forget Joey Jeremiah by Catherine Ellis? I think wrote that one.
Yes.
So those are a few at the top of my list. I don't know if I'll ever get my way through all of them. I mean, I don't even have any more of them right now, but those would be the ones probably that I prioritize. Although I have to say, every once in a while I look at the publisher's website, Formac,
Yes.
Lerner, whatever they're called, and there's the bundle where you can get all 12 character books from the class, from Degrassi Junior High, and I'm tempted because they're all in print again.
Yeah, they're like almost $100, but it's Canadian, so it's cheaper for us.
Yeah, it's still a lot of money, so I haven't pressed the button
Yeah.
on it yet, but I'm tempted.
I would recommend checking out like thrift books and eBay.
I definitely do. That's how I finally tracked down Wheels. That was the first character book I read. And the thing I love about the character books, or that I can only talk about the two I've read so far, which is Snake and Wheels, is how they start with an actual episode or a storyline, like Snake's brother
Yes.
coming out. Have you read the Wheels book yet?
I have not.
Okay.
Some of
Well,
them
it's
I'm
not,
waiting for like the podcast so I can have that first time
yeah,
reaction,
but you
but
know
there
the
are a lot
show.
I've read.
You've
Yes.
seen the whole, okay, so it's not a spoiler to say that this one centers around Wheels living with his grandma after his parents have died, and him starting to mess up in school, and he's depressed and acting out a lot, and his grandmother's kind of fed up with him, and it's going to turn into his journey to try and connect with his dad. But
Okay.
what both of these books do is they like take this sort of canonical event, an actual episode or scenario, but they like fill in the world around it in a really cool way. So
Yeah, they build
you have
around
different,
it.
yeah, you have characters and stuff that could totally be there in the part of the world, the character's life that we don't get to see on the show. So you saw that in the Snake book, we have like this character, we have all this stuff about the basketball team and Alonzo and
Yes, I love Alonzo.
that gang of kids that they go up, like there's a terrible like You
Oh
know,
yes, with Tim
outside the
McGrath
bar, the
and
gay bashing thing,
yes.
like all of this stuff that's extra, but it doesn't contradict anything in the show, and it actually deepens and enriches the storyline, I think. And it's
And it
just
feels
I'm
very
really impressed with the
believable.
way that it's done. I guess the two books I read were by Susan Nielsen, so they both do
Yes,
that
and
very
she's a
well.
great author. I recently read another one of her books that wasn't Degrassi related.
Oh yeah,
It's called Word Nerd, and I absolutely loved it. This
good.
kid with a peanut allergy,
Yeah.
um, he goes to school and he has a peanut put into his lunch by a bunch of bullies, and it ends up sending him to the hospital, and he ends up having to be homeschooled and joins a Scrabble club at a local church, and it's really good.
Cool. I'm glad that the Degrassi books brought you to an author that you now like and you want to read their other stuff.
Yes, and she was the janitor on Degrassi Junior High.
That I didn't know. That's a factoid
Yes.
I didn't catch. So thank
Oh
you.
my gosh, I absolutely love that. She calls Joey a goofball. Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any aspects of your life that are inspired by Degrassi?
Any aspects of my life that are inspired by Degrassi? Well, I talked about this a little bit already in terms of watching the show with my kid and it being sort of a support and mirroring their experience when they came out as transgender. I think that's the way that the show has helped me. It's been like, I don't know how else to say it. It's helped to see how other parents react in certain situations. It helps to fill in to see the experience of other kids and what they're going through. Um, I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer that question, actually. It's more of a fuzzy thing. It hasn't like changed the way I parent or anything like that, but it's been a valuable tool and companion to have as a parent to see what other kids and parents are going through, I guess.
Well, that's definitely still impactful and helpful.
I
Yeah,
think it also it's so good at showing, like in life, you only see the surface of people. You know, you only get
yeah,
to see the way they act and the way they behave. And if they do something crappy to someone else, you don't always get to know why. And I think Degrassi's really good at showing that everybody has something going on. And I actually remember that's something I got to go to Jocelyn's birthday party in Toronto at Skylar's and Stephen Stone's condo last November. And I remember the way that Linda framed that goal of hers was to kind of show that every kid comes to school with an invisible pack of the stuff that they're carrying along with them that we can't see, and that we have to open a space for that, and we have to respect and understand that there's more than we can see on the surface. I think the show's always done a good job of that. And so even when their characters make choices that you hate or that feel hurtful or something like that, there's always an attempt to try and show the full person, you know, and where some of this might be coming from. I don't know. I find all of that helpful as a human being and as a parent, I guess.
I can definitely understand that. Like even Rick Murray, who we're supposed to like really understand that he's a bad person, he's abusive and just so much, but he goes through a lot, and like we see a little bit of his home life and his mom like not understanding that he has no friends, and like a little bit of who his dad is and stuff, and
Yeah.
it's impactful even if it's just a small amount.
My, I guess my other answer that's in a completely different direction to that question of how the show's changed my life is what we already started to talk about, community that we belong to, and specifically like the Degrassi Kid Board. I love this community so much, and I did not have a thing.
Happened, but
That's okay. I don't know if it cut off my last word or something, but it's
uh,
fine.
I don't know what just happened.
I don't know.
Honestly,
We've only got 5 minutes left. I want, does it, it shouldn't like cut off with a 5 minute warning or anything. It should have just gone.
no, that might have been because I'm in the middle of a thunderstorm.
Ooh, sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
I
Oh
hope
my
that
gosh.
we got some of that. We probably just may not have gotten the last sentence or so.
That's completely okay. I'm really sorry about that. That's definitely my weather's bad. I can't control it, but I'm apologizing.
That's okay. It's not your fault. I'm enjoying the conversation.
Yeah, and it's not telling me how much time is left anymore, so I don't
Oh,
know.
I have it. It's counting down 4 minutes and 11 seconds.
Oh, okay, thank you.
No, no pressure.
Well, I can hopefully always send a second link and it'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm fine if you want to do that right now to finish it or whatever.
Yeah, I can do that real quick.
Okay.
I'll stop recording. Editing me here. Yeah, I just wanted to leave that in to kind of show that I'm very new to podcasting and it's definitely not a perfect art, but I'm very thankful for people who are understanding and just like accepting that it's tough and I can't control technology and I'm kind of bad at it, at technology. But yeah, I just thought it was funny to kind of leave that in. Sometimes we just gotta roll with the punches. Anyway, back to the interview. No, I'm
Okay.
now I'm doing it. Okay, so what's it like being a parent of an
Mhm.
LGBT child during this tough time of book bans?
Well, I will have to say, first of all, that I'm extremely lucky that even though I'm in Texas, I'm in Central Texas, our specific school districts have not been involved in any of the challenged book, banned book situations. We have not had to experience firsthand books being removed from the schools or anything like that. I was actually checking with my kid again from their perspective if they ever felt like there were reading materials that were being taken off the shelves or anything like that. And they said no. So I'm really happy. Kind of a liberal enclave in Texas, which is a red state. Otherwise, there's just a few sort of oases that are a bit better. And, we've been lucky to have a school that was really supportive when I came out. There's actually quite a number of, trans and non-binary kids in school. So the school is very supportive about name changes, pronoun changes, all of that effort to make kids feel welcome and included and all that kind of stuff. I think was absolutely fantastic. Now, on the other hand, we're living where we're hearing daily here about all of the book challenges that are happening all the time. Texas is, I think, number one in terms of books being challenged and removed from schools. So we know about it. My kid knows about it. They know and feel very much like their personhood has been under attack because of a lot of the materials that are taken out have to do with gender identity and LGBTQ plus people and issues, and of course all these other things as well. They say we want to remove sexually explicit materials from the libraries, but they also have been trying to remove books about race and other cultures and peoples and ethnicity. BIPOC people and LGBTQ people and books about reproductive health and about gender identity. All of this stuff is getting swept aside as dangerous. So it's very real and it's happening all the time. And I think that as a parent, I've just always believed in making sure my kids have access to, because I do have two kids, have access to the stuff they want to read. And I actually feel like this is played out in a way where I found myself seeking out books to understand my kids' experience and identify with what they're going through. So I remember like when they're first coming out, seeking out books like the ABCs of LGBTQ because I'm reading about some of these definitions and identities for the first time and really trying to understand the nuances and, why my kid is maybe way versus that way, that kind of, I didn't know any of this stuff. I mean, I'm a reasonably intelligent person and I grew up in a liberal background. I grew up in San Francisco and, but didn't know everything, I have to say. There's a lot I didn't know. And then on the other hand, as a librarian, as a person who loves books, I wanted to be kind of like a personal librarian for my kid and go out of my way to go on to Goodreads and the book sites and all the stuff that support, young adult fiction and nonfiction for queer kids and for trans kids and non-binary kids. So I would go out and find stuff and pick up books and come home and say, hey, look, this one, Cemetery Boys, is supposed to be really good. Do you want to read that one? There was
That
another
was
one I
really good.
remember. Yeah, I never did read that one yet. Another one that I did read, I think was called I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver, I believe. And I don't know that my kid actually ended up reading all of the stuff I put in their path, but it did make them more interested in reading because they saw that people like that there are books about them, about people like them. And so they, we still go to Barnes and Noble sometimes. They'll make a beeline over to the YA and they'll zero in on where are the gay books for and that kind of stuff. So I love that. And I've always tried to help them find stuff. They're pretty good at finding their own stuff though, as it turns out. But I wanted them to know that I had their back and I want to share this with them, I guess, too. So yeah, I can't say they had a direct experience of books being taken away or removed from their school, but they have felt like their identity and their personhood is challenged in living in this state. And they've sometimes expressed, maybe wanting to move away when they can. Also, I think at this point I should mention my kid turned 18 a couple of months ago, so they are officially an adult now. Both of my kids are adults, but I still think of them as my kids, and I still protect them. But I'll also try to talk about them as if they're adults. But we're also talking about their experience when they were teens, which was your question.
Well, no, I can completely understand, even though I'm 29, my mom's definitely like, oh, you're a kid, you're a kid. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm 29.
they're always going to be my kids, but
Yes.
I can't always make the choices for them anymore. But they're good kids and they most of the time make pretty good choices. So hopefully that has our parenting has been decent.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that where you're like, you want to protect them and shelter them and be like, this is the exact book for you, or no, you shouldn't date that person, or just, but you have to step back and be like, no, they know what they're doing, or they're going to learn at least something.
Yeah, they are a pretty plugged in kid and know a little bit about everything. And I'm so impressed.
Yeah, and I know they're on the Discord occasionally, they pop in and out.
Yeah, I think they're more of a lurker than anything else. They're on other Discord servers. I don't know. They seem to, I actually don't know how often they're reading our chats and stuff, but they love hearing about everything we're up to and all of our jokes and memes and watch parties and stuff. I think they probably just feel like it's more my thing. And they have other outlets and other friends and communities, but they do feel very welcome there. And I know I've popped into a couple of events over the last year. So yeah, both of my kids are on the Discord.
Oh, I didn't know both of them were. I just thought
Both
it
of them are on
was
the
just
Discord.
friends.
Yeah, they've both participated a couple of times. Yeah, I think they've even gone in. I saw some vent posts by one of them at some point. So yeah.
And it's nice that you can feel comfortable venting in somewhere where like your dad's still there though, you know?
Yeah, I really feel grateful that our communication with each other is as good as it is. I think my older kid, not the one that we're talking about most of the time, is a bit more, keeps things more to themselves, doesn't express themselves as freely, doesn't open up as easily. But when they do, it is very deep and meaningful. You just have to it's more like you have to wait for them to kind of come to you when they need something, I think. I don't know. I love them both. They're just two completely different people, and that's fine.
I mean, sometimes waiting for the communication makes it mean even more.
Yeah. That kid, my older kid says that they're I think they say they're like a cat, that's off on their own, curled up in the corner, taking the nap or whatever, but they'll come out and sit on your lap or sit next to you when they're ready. And that makes sense.
I mean, you have multiple cats, so I feel like you can
Yeah,
understand.
I do. My kids are better behaved than my cats. I'll just say that.
I can understand that. My dog's quite wild sometimes.
My kids don't tear up the furniture or bully each other, or maybe they used to sometimes pick on each other, but I'm so thrilled that they are really enjoying hanging out together now in a way that they haven't in years. They're 2 years apart, and they've been spending a lot of time together without fighting, just connecting and bonding and playing games and stuff like that. Now they've both just started college at the college where I work. So that's fun to see them now crossing into the next step of their
Yeah,
education.
I think you've explained that your college that you work for helps pay for their school or something.
Yes. They passed a policy this year to offer free college tuition for all graduating high school students from 2024. So My younger kid just graduated in May and benefited from that. They've got free college for up to 3 years at my college. And then about 2 months ago, they followed that up with a free college offer for children and dependents of current faculty and staff. So my older kid qualifies for free college tuition as well. So I mean, they still got to buy the books and stuff like that, but those classes and registration and all that, they can just focus on their education now. And it's amazing. It's just an enrollment at my college has gone up like through the roof because people are like, why, get into terrible financial debt by instantly applying to a 4-year college if you can do your first couple of years at a community college close to home for free, So
Yeah, and
I'm
there's
thrilled and
definitely,
amazed.
I think there's a few 2-year degrees that they could probably do as well and get all of their college for free.
Yeah, well, everything at this college is 2-year degrees, with a few exceptions. There are some 4-year degrees offered as well, but most things are 2-year degrees. So, yeah, my older kid's close already to getting their English associate's degree.
Oh,
Just
that's
because
really cool.
yeah,
They probably have to do a lot of reading for that.
they do. I don't know if they've gotten into the swing of homework yet. They just started like last week or something, or the week before.
Oh,
No, they're taking an English class actually. They have to take other requirements, but the main English class, which is going to be like American literature from the 1860s through, so it's going to be all the old stuff up to like the, 1920s or 30s. That's going to be a lot of reading. Enjoy that. Have fun with the Red Badge of Courage or Scarlet Letter or
yep.
whatever.
Okay. The Red Badge of Courage
I'm
and
just
the
throwing that.
Scarlet
I have
Letter
no idea if
are
that's on their
both
reading
banned
list.
books. They're both banned books, though.
Sure.
Yeah, they're in the challenged
Most major
books
books have been
section.
banned somewhere
Yeah.
at some point, and in our state, in the United States, and probably in my state, Texas, you are winning the most banned books award. Unfortunately,
I mean, I keep up with my newspapers, and we've had 20 books banned this year so far.
yeah.
Yeah, I've been collecting all the newspapers in my town that mention banned books, and I'm making a scrapbook out of them.
So I was looking at about banned books while you wanted to have me on, and I saw there's this big report that came out. I don't know if you stumbled on it in your research, the Pen America Banned in the USA report. It's all online and it has all the stats for like overall number of books banned and by state, what's happening. It's quite a good comprehensive report on this current situation. And they reported that there were 4,349 book bans in the fall 2023 semester alone. And that in Texas, there were 1,550 book bans between 2021 and 2023. 1,550 book bans just in Texas.
Yeah, y'all are definitely beating South Carolina at
Yeah, I'm
least.
sorry to, but I hate it. It's like almost every day there's a new story about another school district that's either had a challenge come to them from some group. We had one a few weeks or months ago. There was a school district, South Central, somewhere in South Texas, that got a list of 620 books that some group wanted them to remove immediately,
My gosh.
you know?
And I'm
And
always quite curious how many of these books the groups themselves are reading before they're just like, nope, ban it.
well, I think in a lot of cases, they're not reading them. And what we're seeing more and more now is like systematic attempts by conservative groups and groups of
Yes.
conservative parents or just conservative groups who are going school district by school district around the state or around the country. They're demanding that books be removed. Like I can't say if they've actually read these things cover to cover or if they've just been added to a list that they're going around throwing in people's faces.
I feel like they
I
might
think,
read up a bit on the author or something like that and be like, no, I just don't like this author. That's enough.
yeah,
Like
or
this
they're
author's,
they're reacting to a word or a sentence out of
yeah,
context. I think that's the evidence that they're not reading the book or experiencing the entire work in context. Is they're calling stuff explicit or dangerous that absolutely is not.
yeah. I feel like Judy Blume was talking about that in her documentary. One of her books called Deanie is
Hmm.
banned, and it's really over just one sentence where the character talks about masturbation.
Yep.
But it's just one sentence.
Yeah, I mean, I watch John Green is outraged daily about Looking for Alaska and all the ridiculous things that people say. I
Okay, that
mean,
is Sawyer's favorite banned book, and we were just talking about
oh,
it in
that's
our
great. Okay, well,
episode.
this is a good tie-in. I didn't know that. I'm not a plant or anything like that. I actually haven't read that book yet, but I'm a huge John
I
Green
haven't
fan.
either, but I need to. I heard the whole audiobook is on YouTube, according to Sawyer.
hmm It's
So
one of
I
my
need
next books, actually. It's actually sitting on my shelf over there. I have kind of a TBR sort of. There's actually a lot on it, so there's probably 60 books on these shelves. But it's my little smaller library of stuff I intend to get to sooner than later.
I am one of those people who has tried to plan a TBR, and I'm such a mood reader. I cannot. I try so hard, but I'm like, I get distracted,
No,
and I
I
run.
am 100% the same way. This just means that I stuck books that I'm interested in reading over here. There's no system, and I
Same
will
here.
completely ignore it and pull something from somewhere else or grab something through Hoopla or Libby that is just I need this now read. So I don't actually have a system. I
No, I'm the
follow a
same way.
list. I read what I feel like reading at any given time, and I usually read like 3 or 4 books at a time.
I try to stick to two. I try to stick to an audiobook and a physical book. Sometimes I'll slip in an ebook or two, but I try to rest my eyes against the screen time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But no, I haven't read that one, but I've heard it's really good from Sawyer, and I need to look into it.
I have it. I feel bad that I haven't read it because I've had it for a couple of years waiting to be read.
I do that too. Oh my gosh. And then like
Well,
every time we go to the thrift store, I'm like, I need about six different books. I go straight to the books, even though I have no space left.
I'm sure I've shared some pictures of bits of my library over the years on Discord, and I have hundreds of books that I haven't read yet. My
Same.
library is I buy, collect, and they're there, and it's my smaller microcosm of things to choose from. It's my personal library. It does not mean I've read them. It just
Yes.
means that they're there to be read and selected when the mood strikes, and the intention is there to read every one of them. And I probably never will. Honestly, how could I?
No, I'm the same way, and I reread a lot of the time. I get in a mood and I'm like, I need this comfort read. Even though there's hundreds of other books where I'm like, I should read this one now, but I'm not in the mood for it. I'm in the mood for this other one. And I have my routines. Like in October, I read all of my
hmm
R.L. Steins, and in November, I go for religious trauma, things like that.
I don't have very many seasonal rituals like that. I guess sometimes there are sort of December holiday, Christmassy types of things that I associate with that time of year. Like the Dark is Rising fantasy series. Only
Oh my gosh.
one or two. For some reason, when I feel like rereading some of the Narnia books around that time too, and I think that's because The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe takes place in the kind of snowy, frozen Narnia. So that's one that I associate with that time of year.
That's
Yeah, I don't
actually
know.
that's a banned book that was mentioned on Degrassi.
Which one?
The Lion, the Witch, and the
Oh, The
Wardrobe.
Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Okay. Yeah, that's one of my early childhood favorites. Probably one of the first book series that I fell for when I was a kid.
I love hearing that. That is one I read the book and I fell asleep during the movie. I didn't enjoy the movie, but I liked the book.
Yeah, well, there were no movies when I read the book, so I just had the book and I had to read the whole series. And I think my mom was reading some of them to me. I don't know. So now I'm trying to remember how young I was because I remember being read aloud to for some of it. But then I also remember at some point my class. No, maybe I'm getting that mixed up. This is what it is. In second or third grade, the teacher, we had like a reading time. I don't know if it was every Friday or some segment at the end of the day. And he was slowly reading it to us, the Narnia series. And I loved it so much that I read way ahead. And I always knew like I was way ahead of them. And they'd be sitting there going like, oh no, but what's going to happen to Aslan the lion? And I'd be like, you don't even know the half of it. Okay. Because I could not stay in place reading at the snail's pace that they were. You probably know how that is. You just need to keep going.
I am definitely one of those people where I'm like, I don't want to put it down. And my mom's like, oh, but you need to cook dinner. And I'm like, okay, but I got like one more
Fine.
chapter and just do one more chapter.
Yeah.
Or teachers will often say, like, you can read after class when you're done. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to half ass all of this work and pull out my book.
Yeah.
Or like, I went through a vampire fiction phase Very clear of me. Back
I
in
love
high
it.
school. Yeah. And
I've
I
had
would
vampire
always,
phases. I remember reading the Anne Rice series when I
I
was a
have
teen
read
and
all
like
of
in
those.
my first years of college and stuff like that. I was super into Interview with the Vampire and the Vampire Lestat and the Queen of the Damned and all of that.
Yes, I've read all of those. I've read all of Twilight. I've read some vampire poetry, and there's a vampire's guide to sexual intimacy.
I don't
I've
know
read
that one.
that.
I didn't pursue my vampire reading quite as long, I guess.
Yeah, and I would
Interestingly,
always take those in school.
you mentioned Twilight, and I was just remembering that I've only read the first one, I think, but I read it when my older kid wanted to read it, and they were pretty young, I thought. I can't remember how young. I want to say it was middle school, so I don't know, maybe 11, 12, 11, something like that. And
Gosh.
instead of me saying, no, that's dangerous, you can't read it, what I did is I checked out a copy of it and read it just so I knew what it was and if I felt okay with them reading it. And then after reading it and thinking about it and knowing that I would be there if they want to talk about anything or didn't understand anything, I let them read the book. But I did read it first. That's probably the only time I did that, but it made me feel better.
I
And I
mean,
enjoyed the book, actually.
yeah, that's what I recommend parents would do. And I've read all four, and it is a banned book,
Yeah,
but honestly, I don't care. I highly recommend it. And I've read Midnight Sun as well. I didn't like it as much, but I read it,
I
and I've seen
think
all the movies.
I think my Twilight kid has read that one.
Yeah, Edward's point of view is not as intriguing to me, but I did enjoy it a little bit. I feel like it definitely completed the journey. And there is one where they're gender swapped. I'm blanking on the name of it, but I'll research it and
I
edit
don't know.
me saying it
Not an
here.
expert.
Okay, I googled it. It's Twilight, Life and Death. That is the gender swapped Twilight. And they're putting out an animated series that they're calling Midnight Sun on Netflix soon. That's not really important, but I just thought it was interesting to add it into the conversation here as we talk about Twilight. Anyway, back to the interview. LOL.
On that.
Yeah, the gender swap one is really good. I would recommend it. And
Cool.
there's a lot of different podcasts about Twilight that I listen to as well. I'm still in my vampire phase for
That's
sure.
fine. It's good stuff. A lot of it.
Yeah. We always get off topic.
It's because we like talking about books. Us
Yeah,
librarian types.
exactly. You definitely understand that about me. Like you and didn't you recently read Perks of Being a Wallflower?
I did. Yeah, I never read it. And then two or three people were talking about it and saying it's one of their favorite books ever. And I was like, "Oh, I think I want to read that. And then I went to the world's biggest bookstore in Portland, Oregon, which is Powell's, when I was out there. And that's when I stumbled on it and was like, now I'm going to read it. It's here today. I'm going to buy a copy. And then I read it and I loved it.
Yeah, Amber was recommending it in the library chat, and I stumbled across a copy for 10 cents at my local favorite thrift
Okay.
store, Kappa.
Mine was maybe half price, but it wasn't 10 cents.
I highly
Good
recommend
job.
going to like a Kappa's Closet thrift store if you've got one. All of their paperbacks are 10 cents and all of their hardbacks are 25.
Mm,
It's such a good deal.
cool. I don't have quite that. I have half price books, but it's half price. So if a book's $16, it's still going to cost $8 or, that kind of thing.
That's still not bad.
No, I
And
love it. I'm there all the time. It's dangerous for me. I'll
yeah,
go in and come out with 4 or 5 more books and it's like, I already don't have anywhere to put anything.
yeah, I do the same thing when I go to Kappa's. I'll pick up like about 100 sometimes, but
Yeah.
we sell them on eBay too, so it's not
Yeah, yeah,
always
yeah.
stuff I'm
It's not
reading.
just going to stack up somewhere forever.
Oh, I mean, all three of my bookshelves are overflowing, and I even have some books on the floor underneath a shelf because I have mine categorized. So I have a Degrassi shelf, I have a straight people shelf for all my straight people books. Sorry, straight people.
It's okay. I have
Yeah.
lots of straight people books. I have lots of all kinds of books though.
Oh, I have way more straight people books than anything else, which is
I've
disheartening
never
as
thought
a
of them
queer
that
person.
way. So
It's just the way I organize things. Like I also have a shelf full of series that are incomplete. So like I'll
Mhm.
grab a book and I'll be like, "Oh, this looks really good," and then I'm like, "Oh wait, it's part of a series." and I'm never gonna get the rest probably.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I need it anyway because it looks really good. So I definitely have a shelf like that as well. And it's overflowing. But no, how did you like Perks of Being a Wallflower?
I liked it a lot. I read it right through it. Um, I think it's great. And
Yeah, we're watching the movie soon.
yeah, I was just going to say, tying it back to our Discord and our community is now it's going to be an event where we watch the movie. So I've been waiting to watch the movie now for that. So I'm excited about that. I have no idea. I don't even know most of the cast, so
I didn't look
I'm,
into it at all. I read the book and I enjoyed it a lot. I like
mhm.
books with letters in them, but the whole book is a bunch of letters, and I was like, oh, there's not a lot of action here. So maybe
Oh,
the
that
movie
doesn't
will
bother
be.
me. I mean, to me, it's the same as it's of any first person I book because it's still the thing that's just written in the form of a letter. I mean, you could
Yeah,
take out the part that's dear so and so, and it would just be like any other book.
that's a good point. Yeah, I definitely really
But
liked it.
yeah,
And I wasn't sure how much I would, but I loved it, truly.
good.
I still
But
have it.
we all have preferences for whether you want a first person book or you want a third person book or maybe letters isn't your usual kind of thing. So that's fine. Everybody has those preferences.
I've been really enjoying like dual POVs lately.
Hmm.
Um, we talked a little bit about how banned books affect you as a parent, but what about as your job as a librarian?
Hmm. Um, so I'm an academic librarian. I work for a big community college system, and in my day-to-day work, the thankfully, again, just like I was talking about with my high school, we're not getting book challenges at my institution, so I don't really have to deal personally with book bans or book challenges. I actually don't know of there being, and I'm not aware of there being any book challenges since that. So we are a college for adults and stuff like that. Although that's not entirely true because we do have early college high school kids. We have huge enrollment by early college high school kids and dual credit students who are technically in high school and taking college level classes. And I have heard situations where parents might balk at something that's on the syllabus. Maybe it's a movie they're supposed to be watch, or that's rated R, or whatever. But the general sort of rule of thumb is when they enroll, they're going to be taking adult college classes, and that's what it is. They're not going to change the curriculum for somebody when they're enrolling. They're at college and they're taking classes, so that's one nice thing. So as far as being a librarian at my institution, it's more just on the one level. Every librarian, I like to think we all believe in academic freedom and intellectual freedom and the ability to read what we can. I mean, that's kind of what a librarian is. That we have to be aware of all of this stuff going on and monitor it and help fight it and get the word out and stuff like that, or just shine a light on it. And I think one way of doing that is what the reason that brought us together today is Banned Books Week. So I'm not always involved in programming at my library, but when I have and when I've been tasked or had the opportunity to do something for banned books, we've come up with fun things to just kind of get the conversation going on campus or to have an interesting social media feed about it. So we've done things like had photo booths like a photo or something where students could come in and pose with like a background of a mug shot kind of thing and with their favorite banned book and kind of put those out on social media as look, this book is dangerous but they get to showcase a book that they love and also bring up the idea that someone out there thinks this is dangerous and doesn't want you to be able to read that, and that's ridiculous. So we've done stuff like that. We've done Instagram reels of the librarians each choosing one of their favorite books and reading the first sentence or the first couple of lines on the book and cutting it together as a little montage on our feeds. And then another fun exhibit I did once at a previous library I worked for was we removed, we grabbed a bunch of the lit books on the current banned books list and basically put them on display under glass, wrapped it in caution tape and stuff like that, and kind of had this like, we're taking these out of the collection for the week. They're banned. Of course, they're not really banned, and it was just to have it a visual, for what it was. If anybody wanted to check out any of those books, we would have opened it up and taken it out for them. But it was just kind of a cool way to, I don't know, bring that idea out in a way that's kind of striking. So I've liked those opportunities.
I mean, those all sound very interesting and something that I've dreamed about just doing because that's kind of my dream
Yeah.
is to be a librarian. And it definitely makes me think about all the stuff I've been planning for the Discord and everything. But it's nice to know that that's not something you have to deal with a lot or sounds like at all, really.
Well, that said, there is a process in place. I think that might be one of your next questions, But, every library and every school, every institution has to be prepared for those challenges. I mean, I can only say that I'm not aware of there being one, but there have to be processes to follow when they do come up.
I mean, yeah, you definitely have to form a committee and everyone has to take the time to actually read it and try to figure out what they're banning about it and see if there's a way to contradict it in a way and be like, no, this can actually be helpful for someone instead of harmful, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of the school libraries, I think everyone does have a process they're supposed to follow. And unfortunately, a lot of time we're seeing knee-jerk reactions where a challenged school kind of freaks out and immediately removes the stuff with actually following their own process, which is a problem. I've seen reports of that kind of thing happening, but like at my level, at my institution, there's a set thing with the timeline that has to happen. And the first step is the person who's challenging the book has to fill out a very detailed form. That's asking, what are they objecting to? Who are they? First of all, how are they affiliated with the college? Are they affiliated with any sort of group? So just some basic information about who they are and what their perspective is. And then really asking them to spell out what is objectionable? Where is it? Can you quote it? What specifically we need? And a really important question, I think, is, have you actually read the work in its entirety? Okay. So first getting them to detail everything as explicitly as possible. And then that form gets passed to basically our big boss, the dean. And then a committee's formed, like you said. And that committee is going to be made up of librarians, going to be made up of staff and faculty and other folks at the college. And they take some time to go through it and examine the situation and then come up with the decision, their recommendation for a decision. And the dean sends that decision back. A letter is written to the person. Here's our decision. And there is an opportunity to appeal. But in the end, there's going to be a decision made, There's not multiple chances to appeal. In the end, we're going to say, we've done the work, we've done the homework, we've taken your case seriously, and this is where we landed on it. So that process is there to follow if it ever comes up.
I mean, that's perfect. That's what everyone needs to have and not just in the situation of banned books, but, in life in general, you need a plan A, a plan B, a process of elimination for everything you want to go through and make sure that all of your so-called boxes are checked and you've got that plan.
I think the benefit of a process like that too is that doesn't work as well with here's a list of 50 books I want you to remove, right? Because this process happens when you detail your complaint or your case for a specific book, and you have to address these things like, have you read the book? Have you read the work in its entirety? What is objectionable? Explain, where in the book does this occur? Can you actually cite circumstances or quotes or pages or any of that? I mean, it's really like, please do your homework also, and don't just provide a list or a list that you've received from somebody else, because you want these removed from every school ever. Also, I think it's an important question. Who are you?
Yeah.
Do you have a student at this school? Are you affiliated with one of these groups,
Yeah, sometimes you're just a random group member who's got nothing to do with this school, but you've got an axe to grind for whatever reason. Yeah.
So I think most colleges and schools will have something like that committee type approach, where that sort of thing is supposed to happen anyway.
Yeah, because then you get the multiple perspectives of like a parent, a librarian, sometimes even a student.
And the decision isn't going to be arbitrary. It's going to be based on a lot of people thinking about the issue and the problem.
I mean, yeah, that's a lot like having a guest on a podcast or just like a whole group of community of people where we can go through together and be like, got this different point of view. This is my perspective of like, I've lived through this and the book can be helpful.
Yep.
So many book bans don't happen at your library, but do you have any advice for other people who might be experiencing this?
I do. I would say to seek out the organizations that work to fight this kind of stuff and volunteer for them, support them. There are like the state library associations, the American Civil Liberties Union. So for example, some of the things we have in Texas, there's a grassroots group called the Free Read Project, which is a group of parents fighting the fight against banning books. So they're doing their own advocacy. They're like, we're the parents who don't agree with what's going on, and we're banding together as a group. They got to as a coalition to help fight this battle. So there's stuff like that. State Library Association, this Library Association has a group called Texas to Read. The ACLU, I mentioned them before, the American Civil Liberties Union, branch of Texas, they're on the front lines fighting the legal battles, trying to get things overturned when there's bad legislation that, this sort of dangerous legislations that's saying these kinds of materials may not be in our school libraries. So they'll try and get injunctions filed. They'll try and sue to get laws overturned. So this stuff is playing out in a lot of these different ways. So to educate yourself and find those groups that are doing this and support them with your money, support them with your time. If this kind of thing is playing out in your schools, go to board meetings, go to the school meetings, go to those parent meetings, and make yourself heard and speak up that you're not you're not going along with this. You disagree, and support your school librarians, because I keep hearing stories about school librarians who've just been wonderful, dedicated professionals for decades, beloved school librarians who are losing their jobs over this kind of thing. So they're wonderful people and they are there for your kids. Support them and don't let them be the victims of this kind of effort as well. So there are lots of ways to look around, hit Google, hit the ACLU, and look around for those kinds of organizations that may be already doing this and see how you can support them.
That's great advice. There's definitely little efforts that everyone can do. Even just a drop in the bucket is still a drop.
For sure. I know. And so often people think like, well, what can I do? Well, the thing is, you're already doing work with them. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to build the wheel, start from scratch.
I mean, no, you can definitely even just something as simple as bringing snacks to the meeting and just being a person there. It makes them feel like they're not alone, and it definitely shows support. Every warm body is still someone.
Yeah. Be vocal and write letters to your representatives in the legislature too. Even if they are the side that's doing these things, get on the record with your opposition, write your letters.
Yeah, definitely cast your ballot, and even just a pencil and paper is something powerful. That's what books are, is pencil and
Write
paper.
the email, right? And drop it into the mail, but whatever. Myself there, especially if you disagree with all of this.
Yeah, that's definitely great advice to have. And it may sound simple, but it's something not everyone would consider. I feel like there's definitely emails that we ignore, but this is something you shouldn't ignore.
Yeah,
So I'd like to give you some time to kind of talk about where people can find your podcasts and what your podcasts are about and let you kind
sure.
of plug them.
Yeah, so I have two podcasts. They're both movie review podcasts, essentially. My longest running one started 5 or 6 years ago, and it's called Shut Up and Watch This. And it's one that I've been doing with my wife. And it started out, well, we wanted to start a podcast, and our idea was, oh my God, there's so many things that you love that I just don't know. And so the premise of the show is each week shares a movie or a television show with the other person that they've never seen before. And so it's like this is important to me, and I've chosen it. I want to share it with you. We're going to watch it together, and then we're going to have a conversation about it. And so in this little way through media, we want to slowly get to know each other better. So that was the premise of that one. It's sort of on hiatus right now. My wife is away in graduate school in a very demanding program for architecture. So we haven't done one in a few months, and I'm not sure when we're going to get a chance to record another one, but there is a backlog. There's a catalog of 104 or 5 episodes. I think we did them every 2 weeks for years. And my all new podcast, which you should check out because it's very early stages and I'm still trying to find an audience for, is also a movie review show, and it's called Dave and Jeremy's Infinite Rewind Watch Party. I know that's a lot. So we're both librarians. Jeremy's a librarian from where I work, and actually I just got to a location, so we don't get to work together in the same site anymore. But this show started because we had so many great times where he would come over and we just fall into a conversation about some weird, obscure movie and just go off and off. We both have very niche taste in movies. We like classics. We like film noir. We like movies from the 70s and 80s from when we were growing up and falling into movies. We like cult movies and the weird stuff. So it's a little specific in some ways, but the way this is different from the other one is Jeremy he's always trying to like figure out how to like create a genealogy or a family tree for a particular kind of movie or something that's interesting. Like he literally came out to the reference desk one day with a sketch he had drawn that was like a family tree trying to depict, he's like, I'm trying to track how all of these movies about single parents with their kid on the road, like all fit together. And can you think of any more? I was like, that is really fascinating. I can't believe you drew that. So we wanted to capture the flavor of our spontaneous conversations. So we basically do that same kind of thing. One of us throws a movie at the other person, and our idea is that a long-term conversation is going to unfold because every time one of us chooses a movie and we talk about it, the other person is going to find one thread in that conversation or in that movie that reminds them of something else, that inspires them, reminds them of some other movie or some other element. And it might not even make logical sense, but that's going to be the next link in the chain. So then the other person will come back and say, that movie we talked about this time reminds me of this in this movie. And now we're going to talk about that. So it's very free form. It's not planned out. We don't know where it's going to go. And we like to think of the whole thing as going to be a longer conversation where it's like this movie, no,
Yeah.
that movie, this movie, that movie. So that's the idea of the show. It's kind of hard to explain.
No, like it's very what is it, 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because it could just be like there's something about the musical score that reminds me of this movie, or there's something, this
Yes.
movie is like really overblown and very melodramatic. And even though it's a murder mystery, it reminds me of this romance that's really melodramatic. So the
I love
connections can
that.
be very weird or we want it to be very personal and idiosyncratic. But I think that we're funny and, and have a lot to say about these films. And he comes to film more from a background of, he's very well read with literature, and he's a writer. He's into creative writing and, working on short stories and trying to write a novel and all that kind of stuff. And I have a background in film. I went to film school, years ago. So I have that training and background and a lot of just falling in love with film studies and film grammar and film from around the world. So have different connecting points. Anyway, that's the show. It's called Dave and Jeremy's Infinite Rewind Watch Party. The other one's called Shut Up and Watch This. You can find them both anywhere, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, just type in and search. Or you can find me online. I have a link tree it's linktree/Dave Dwelling, DAVEDWELLING, Dave Dwelling. And that's pretty much my handle out there too on Instagram, Dave Dwelling. TikTok's different. It's Dave Dwelling-ish because somebody else took it already. It's still pretty easy to find. Um, yeah, and it's just me. It's movie content, sometimes Degrassi content, and and of course, I promote all of my shows over there as well.
I've listened to your episode about the Nightmare Before Christmas with your wife, and I
Oh
absolutely
yeah,
loved it.
that was one where that's a movie that was important to her. I had never seen it. It was just completely a blind spot. I'd never gotten a chance to see it, so it was a lot of fun to see it together.
It's always interesting to me to hear the first time perspective, which is one reason why I love Evie's podcast so much.
Hmm.
But it's like I connect with this thing so much and I have nostalgia with it. And like maybe I have those rose colored glasses with it.
Hmm.
And to hear that first time perspective of like, oh, you don't have a bias. So it's tricky what you might feel. And I might get a bit upset that you don't like my favorite thing, but I
I'm
respect your
sorry.
opinion. Oh no, you had a great opinion about the Nightmare
Okay.
Before Christmas.
Well, I like that too, that hearing somebody else's first reaction to something you know and love is
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah, I love that about Evie's podcast.
And I love that about yours 'cause, like you get two kind of perspectives and your wife has a great point of view as well as yours. But
It's funny.
I haven't
We,
listened to yours with Jeremy yet, but I need to.
oh, we only have we have our intro episode, which is like well, start with that. It's 7 minutes long, and it's kind of a trailer. Like, here's what we're gonna do. So that's a
Yeah.
very easy entry point. And then we've only done 2 episodes so far. We're about to record our third episode next weekend. I thought I was going to be recording this and that this weekend, but things are that which I don't know. Sounds tricky to me. I'm not used to doing that many podcasts in a short amount of time, but
I
anyway.
mean, I'm not either. I normally only do one episode a month, but this just kind of lined up and I was like, I need all these different points of view because it's such a big topic and everyone has that different perspective. And so far, no one here thinks we should ban books, which is good.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, also, you got a librarian in a college, it would be different if it was a conversation with the school librarian, exactly having to face some of this stuff firsthand. I luckily am not in that position, but from the outside, I can still try and help paint a picture of what's going on.
I mean, sadly, I don't know any high school librarians or literally any other librarians that aren't on Discord.
Hmm.
So there are like one or two more on Discord, but not very many.
Yeah.
But it's still so nice to have that perspective and have that it's that warm hug of like, you know what I know, you love what I love.
Hmm.
And it's different, but it's much like how we feel about Degrassi. It's much of that feeling.
I agree. Love it. And it's been a great conversation. I've been really enjoyed talking about all this.
Yeah. Um, would you ever want to come back?
Of course.
Okay.
I don't know why my voice cracked like that. See, that's just enthusiasm.
Well, we've
Yeah,
been
I would be
talking
happy
for
to
a
come
while.
back anytime. Yep.
Yeah. This is the point where we transitioned into trivia about banned books mentioned on Degrassi. And I just kind of forgot to record a transition of some kind and leave it in for editing and all that. We got sidetracked and distracted and had a really great conversation. So if you want to check out that trivia, you should go to patreon.com/DegrassiKid. And for our next episode of Bruce Mackey's Library, we'll be finally diving into our next book, which is the third book in the series called Griff Gets a Hand. And I can't wait to discuss it with y'all. So I'll catch y'all next time. Bye.